Got another one here, another question. Someone else has written on my bag. Lots of penis jokes. It's Nitroholic. He writes, "Hey, Deal and Blade. Great show." Right.
Has he been hanging around with RVD and Sabu?
That's you gotta be if you're going, man. You gotta listen to this show. It's great. Although I do love this. He says, "I listened to it."
That show was kind of boring, dude. Well, I'll take this shit and make it a lot better.
Oh, dude, they're so funny. He says he listens to it all the time at work. I like that.
Dude, that's awesome. That dude rules.
Anytime that we can stick it to the man.
Yeah.
By having workers listen to this stupid show instead of doing actual work. That's perfect.
Hey folks, it's Kellen Nitro for Nitromaniac TV's Wrestling Unlimited, and what you just heard was a clip dating way back to July 7th of 2006, and that is from Wrestlecrap Radio. I actually wrote in under my old internet alias as Nitroholic to that episode and got my question read out on air by two men that I consider to be major influences in my podcasting style, and two men that I have listened to for a very, very long time. Wrestlecrap's R.D. Reynolds and Wrestlecrap's Blade Braxton. Now, unfortunately, Troy Ferguson, a.k.a. Blade Braxton, a.k.a. Midnight Rose, passed away earlier this week. We got word of it, I think, on Sunday night late. In our neck of the woods here. Joining me on the other end of, well, the tin can and string is the virtual tin can and string, because everything is like that right now, is Mr. Moorhouse. Also the second of the 12 listeners to Wrestlecrap Radio. Moorhouse, what you thinking, man? How you doing?
Didn't even know he was sick. Ha, 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 ha.
I think Blade would have wanted it that way too. That's great. This is going to be a kind of a. We don't know how long we're going to go with this, but this is a kind of a remembrance video of Blade Braxton, and we're just going to talk about his influence on both of us, because we were influenced by him quite a bit, and by RD with their style, just because it's such a laid-back, goofy, fun program, and so many great moments in the past for that show. I have personal favorites. Moorehouse's personal favorites. You'll hear personal favorite anecdotes here over the next little bit, and so on and so forth. And I guess I'll just open this up and just ask you, how did you find out about Wrestlecrap Radio? And then I'll tell you about my origin story with Wrestlecrap Radio. We may have already covered this in an earlier video, but I just want to revisit it. So,
well, I first discovered even Wrestlecrap maybe back in 05 or 04, 05.
Mm-hmm.
I was at the doctor's office and I was just snooping through a phone, and eventually I came into the dark tunnel of Wrestlecrap and just spent the entire hour and a half waiting for my doctor, just going through what's been an entry, because they didn't have the active post yet. They just had a list of what's all been entered in a short description. And then a couple months later, I discovered the radio show, the podcast they have, and then I listened to that thing for maybe 3 or 4 years solid, until probably I tapered off and came in and out in spurts. But yeah, for about 4 years, I was really into them.
Yep, exactly. And I came in probably about the same time as you did, via another internet medium, and that was the online wrestling forums. I was involved in one on a social media network called Nexopia. If you lived outside of Western Canada, you would have no idea what the hell Nexopia was. But there was a pro wrestling forum on there that I ended up becoming a moderator for at the forums, basically for the last couple of years of the forum's existence, before everybody kind of transitioned off of Nexopia and into Facebook and MySpace and YouTube and all the other stuff. It was called the Dungeon Pro Wrestling Forum on Nexopia, and somebody had linked up the Shockmaster article that RD and Blade had wrote from the Wrestlecrap archives for the lulz, for the shits, the giggles, for everybody in the forum. And it was at that time I started exploring their website going forward and checking it out and really enjoying the content and really enjoying what I seen on there. And then I saw something in the corner that they had like a show called Wrestlecrap Radio. And I was like, is this on an American radio station? Is this like live streaming? What is this, And again, just learning internet savvy and internet stuff at the time. Little did I know that this was the beginnings of podcast culture. And Wrestlecrap Radio was my very first podcast that I ever downloaded and listened to. I'd have to go back through the archives to find out exactly what episode was my very first one that I listened to. However, by the time that I sent the question in on the July 7th, 2006 episode, it was easily within the 10s or 20s that I have listened to them at that point. Because I had a little old Creative Zen MP3 player that I used to take to work, and I worked in a bakery at that time for just above minimum wage as a baker's assistant, and that was in my headphone during the morning, baking bread and making muffins process and baking donuts process, I guess. Side story there. I didn't consume a donut or any gluten of any type basically for a good year after working in that bakery when I started my college work. It took like a year and a half of basically getting drunk in college and that stuff to get me back into bread products right after, but that's beside the point. That was a good time. Just the candor that both RD and Blade had on air when they were doing this show was amazing, and they could take the show and go several different directions with it, and you didn't know where they were going, and at most of the time they didn't know where they were going either, which was great. I mean, we've had episodes of Wrestlecrap Radio that we've listened to that were very newsworthy, kind of chock full of news. They've had interviews with amazing talents in the pro wrestling game, the late John Tenta for one, Vince Russo, which that interview with Russo didn't talk about wrestling at all. They talked about Batman and Golden Age of comics and stuff like that, which was quite the swerve. Again, the Russo swerve right there. Who else have they interviewed on that show? They had a few.
Lance Storm's been there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are probably the three really they did. And I think they also had the guy from that wrestling adult movie, Randy West, on once.
Oh, okay. Right. Yeah, I remember that as well. And then the different variations of Wrestlecrap Radio, the different ways that they could take it, like I said, and theme it. My favorite shows were always the April Fool's shows, and it's kind of ironic that we got all this news during what would have been probably one of the biggest weeks of the year for Wrestlecrap Radio with the April Fool's joke.
Other good episodes. The draft. The draft was always a fun episode because they moved all the gimmicks to different angles.
So there were a lot of gimmicks on that show.
Roddy Piper's Halloween tips.
Mm-hmm. Roddy Piper's Halloween tips for safety. Still quotable. The clip of it basically originated from the clip from Primetime Wrestling back in the day of Roddy Piper from 1989 giving the Halloween tips at the end of their Halloween episode in 89. But they blew it out of the water to be much, much more. The rotating cast of Total Nonstop Action Correspondence. The storyline being that nobody wanted to sit around and watch TNA long enough to talk about TNA. And trust me, late 2000s TNA went from being really great to, oh my God, what a car wreck.
Yeah, they had to do it during the time when Bischoff and Hogan took over the ship.
Yes, which was the worst time of TNA. Oh,
but you had great correspondence. You had Stumpy, who ended up getting grilled at by RD's wife at a barbecue.
Yep.
You had Peter Gazer. You had who was that nerd? They had some kind of nerd.
Well, Nintendo John was one.
Nintendo John. Was Nathaniel the nerd? I think.
I think so.
Mike Check.
Yeah. Mike Check. Yes. Oh, Mike Check. The subject of the greatest Wrestlecrap radio episode, in my opinion, but we'll get to that after that. David Lee Roth was a TNA correspondent. Yes, the former lead singer of Van Halen, via soundboard and a cappella track of Running with the Devil from 1978. So there we go. I can stop. Are you going to pay for this TNA pay-per-view? No. So you're admitting that you pirate TNA?
Yeah.
Woo! That's a great clip. I love that.
Live my life like this, no tomorrow.
and this is all stuff that you can also suss out and find on YouTube too, because I know definitely the David Lee Roth bit is on YouTube.
Or the Don Mason stories.
Yes.
So Blade had this buddy from high school.
Don Mason.
Don Mason.
Don Mason.
And he was very, very quirky. There's a famous video that did get released by Wrestlecrap where he's dancing with a just Jushin Thunder Liger mask and rotating a skull in his hand.
Very Buffalo Bill-esque.
Yeah. But there's so many good stories that Blade shared about their youth and just how Don Mason is just a weird dude.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, Blade himself, the Return of the Black Scorpion, the greatest B movie that never was. That was amazing. Still a fun watch if you get a chance.
Remember RD. Remember Texarkana. 72.
He did the thing with the thumb. I can't really do it where you stick your thumb
out.
Yeah, the hand. Look what I can do, Sting. Look.
No, RD, not Sting. It was RD.
Oh, RD, sorry.
And then when he took off his mask to reveal it was really Burt Reynolds.
Burt Reynolds. What a swerve. Great stuff. Ah, man.
That's actually how Blade got a gig with Wrestlecrap, because it was Submit a Wrestlecrap at the time. And that was his submission to RD to show what he can do.
Yeah.
Because I think he was against a couple other guys that did have good videos. Like there was a guy who did the Starcade 97 finish where the ref went to have a sandwich, watch all the Alien movies during the fast count.
Yeah. Remember seeing that? Yeah. That's how he made his entrance. And of course, he was involved with Wrestlecrap Radio, but the first edition of the book, the Wrestlecrap book, which inspired the website, was Artie Reynolds and Brian Alvarez, I believe, that were the co-writers for it.
Brian Alvarez from Wrestling Observer.
Yes, F4W Online, Wrestling Observer, you name it. And the most recent Wrestlecrap book that came out, the Wrestlecrap Book of Lists, was the one that Blade made his debut on. But a lot of people thought that Blade was a ghostwriter or involved with all the Wrestlecrap books that came out and that stuff, including Death of WCW, in which Blade, in every single WCW affiliated interview or anything they ever did, always came up with the same line: I had nothing to do with a goddamn line in that goddamn Death of WCW book. And he pointed right at RD, on a couple of the on-camera things I've seen, including the Starcast Death of WCW panel where...
he had nothing to do with that.
Yeah, he had nothing to do with that. It just was there, I guess.
But he did bring a few things to the website. He brought the list of jobber of the week. That was Blade's idea.
Yeah,
he did something. Someone bought this. That was his idea. And then it came from YouTube was also another thing he did a lot.
I love someone bought this, and I love it came from YouTube, because that's how you just found some of the wackiest stuff. And it's where before videos quote unquote went viral, and that's where you could find some of the real cool and weird and and nerdy bits in wrestling culture and in wrestling, just the way that the all would come out and just be presented, I guess. There we go.
It'd be content from like Japan with, I remember one where it was Kurt Angle and Bas Rutten doing a commercial for shaving your head in Japan.
There's a pair to draw to. Man, yes. The lunch boxes were always a fan. I was always a fan of. I love the various. He did like a lunchbox, I guess like a series where he looked at lunch boxes that WWE would put their likenesses on. So he had some from the Hogan era, and then he had looked at a couple from like the Attitude era.
And of course, we have the world's famous, Katie Vick outfit.
Mm-hmm. Which created quite a stir at the StarCast in 2018, StarCast in 2019, I should say, when AEW launched Double or Nothing StarCast in Vegas in May. That was quite the... There was pictures of... it was weird and cool to see modern day wrestling talent interact with this thing. I think the dirtiest being Joel Gertner. He actually tried to climb into the casket and pull headstones with it, but
I digress.
It's the best way of pulling it. But oh man, so many. I guess I'll talk about my favorite Wrestlecrap radio episode at this point, and that was go back to 2011, April 1st, 2011. And the whole concept of the episode is they started off like faking that, hey, it's going to be a WrestleMania preview because WrestleMania was that week for 2011, the one from Atlanta with The Rock and The Miz and John Cena and Triple H coming out to Metallica, and you guys remember that. It starts off like any other setup podcast would be for that. Hey, we're going to preview the card and this and whatever, and then all of a sudden the phone rings, and it's Greg from globalinternet.net, which was an actual character, but it was also their web host for the longest time as well.
Their only sponsor.
Yes. And he said, hey, listen, you guys are coming back off of a big layoff. And they had not published a show in a little bit. It had been, a month or two. And Greg said, we can't afford to not have you guys have shows. The traffic slows down and we're not making any money. So we've decided to post reruns. And RD's like, reruns? And then Blade's like, reruns. Okay, the Meat Pinata episode from 2008 would be a good choice. And RD's like, oh yeah, there's a couple of good ones that you can pull from the archives and that stuff. And then Greg's like, well, no, we're not going to run reruns of you. We've actually found something a lot cheaper instead. And the sound effect of the radio starts turning and that stuff. And all of a sudden we get flashback to WTKO in Ithaca, New York, back in 1978, and they found old copies of Mike Check's morning drive show from 1978, and I know that they were doing a parody, but man, that sounded like an old school 80s or 70s, early 80s AM morning show, complete with just the no selling between the two hosts and everything, and all the different stuff, and the weather girl, and the choice of music that they had on it. Like, it's a solid episode. So yeah, go back and check out the April 1st, 2011 Wrestlecrap episode if you haven't had a chance to listen to it. That's my personal favorite. I just love it. And
you can find it on the archives.
It's in the archives, and I believe you can still find it up on iTunes as well, too, because I don't think they have that limit on their podcasts or anything like that. I think you can scroll down and end up finding it. So, yeah, that's my personal favorite for sure.
For me, I think when I look back, I love the draft episodes just because it gets insanely wacky. Where you have RD having to do TNA correspondent, you have Blade working with like Mike Check for the whole show. But I think one of mine is the April Fool joke, and it was the Coco Beware tribute show.
Okay, you have to fill me in because I don't think I've heard that one yet.
So That's at the time Coco Beware was being inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, which was questionable because he was a career lower mid carder.
Yes.
So, and even before they did the tribute show for him, they're like, why is he going in? That doesn't make any sense,
Right.
So for April Fool, they did a 1 hour show where they just decorated Coco Beware, his amazing career, all the accolades that he's done, all the wrestling that he's done. Just pretty much they treated him like he was the Hulk Hogan of the time. Like Hulk Hogan was nothing compared to Coco Beware.
Mm. Yep. Okay. Like I said, I might have heard that one. I can't remember, but I'll definitely have to go and search that one out to listen about it. The one that I've never listened to, but yet I want to, and I'm definitely going to search this one out, is the 6 effing hour long show where.
Was that the viewer call-in one?
I think that was. I think where Blade said that he had this big, huge announcement.
Which never happened.
But it never happened, and it was always with his trademark timeout real quick, and he would change topics.
And that running joke of announcement has continued to this year even.
Oh, yeah. and, I mean, we could argue that this is the big announcement that, hey, Blade's gone.
I'm gone.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, that's pretty permanent, but that was a great running joke, running gag. Used to annoy me to no end, but I loved it towards the end of it.
There's so many running gags.
Man,
we can talk about. There's the Fax Trolla, which gives wrestling news, which is usually 2 or 3 weeks old.
Well, we can talk about the Trolla Corporation as a whole, the whole Trolla Corporation storyline. So this was something that they were developed that, as you said, was just the Fax Trolla that would spit out 2 or 3 week old wrestling news. There became the Horse Trolla, which was all Mickey James related news.
Because there's questionable photos of Mickey James on the internet.
And Blade had a borderline obsessive fascination with one Miss Mickey James. There was the Baby Trolla. Yeah, Baby Trolla was a good one.
It usually screamed at the end.
Yeah.
I can't remember. There's a lot of trolls.
They did a lot of trolls.
The Draft Trolla.
Draft Trolla, yep.
Yep.
There's a lot of them. Man, just off the top of mind, I think those are your big ones that repeatedly would pop in and out of storylines. But again, that's it.
And don't forget, if Blade says something inappropriate, Mama always drop the dishes.
Yeah. With the damn. And then, of course, the laugh in the early days of the show. That was from a B movie or something like that.
I think it was Santa Meets the Martians. They took a laugh from that.
It could have been, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, so. The Radiance Reaper. I remember when Raw was getting bad ratings, not compared to ratings they're getting today, but
this was when Raw had first started off of in the middle of the Ruthless Aggression era to transitioning to PG, and just started to dip downward, and they were questioning the ratings.
And they were going fast. The ratings were dropping fast. Yeah.
It was that 1 or 2 months after Mania, I want to say in 2006 or 2007, where just everything just went for them. And so the Ratings Reaper, it's a good one.
Artie's trip to the grocery, that's always a classic.
That's right. The cereal taste testing. Well, Blade kind of doing doing all the guest stuff at all of the conventions that he would work for Trauma or Wrestlecrap themselves, or helping people out, or just attending conventions in general, and would get just random 80s movie stars. I think there was one with Tracy Lords where they got her choice for cereal. He
hung out with the guy from Toxic Avenger a lot.
Yep. Exactly. Well, we should also say too that he was also involved with Drive-In Movie Maniacs out of Kansas City, which is still one of the premier B movie broadcasts that you can find on the internet or even on, like on cable access, which is something that's completely foreign to us up here in Canada now. All our cable access stations are gone, so all these great low budget shows can't, operate, I guess, or they're just on YouTube or whatever.
RCBP.
Yeah.
Oh.
Exactly. So, and I think that kind of brings us to, I think probably one of the best interactions that I had with Blade was, I had friended him and RD on Facebook way back in the day, in the early days of Facebook, when they just basically were like, yeah, come on, get people to friend and whatever. And they would always wish me a happy birthday and that stuff every time of year when that would come along, whatever. But actually, over this past Christmas, I had posted on Instagram that I was having a homemade cookie, and I took a picture of myself consuming said homemade cookie in front of the TV while on Christmas Eve watching Drive-In Movie Maniacs. And of course, the Midnight Rose was there with the host of the Drive-In Movie Maniac show, and it was their Christmas special, which was Santa Claus. Basically, Santa Claus or Mexican Santa Claus is what I'm.
Oh yeah,
yeah. It's a classic,
which is also covered on Wrestlecrap inductions as well.
And it's also the classic MST Free K episode as well, way back in the day. But this is the Mexican Santa Claus that has.
Doesn't he meet the devil and stuff?
Yeah, Santa Claus versus the devil, basically. And and there's Lupita, the little Mexican girl that wants the doll, and she can't have the doll and that stuff because she's poor. And
she wants to give the dolly to Santa, I think.
And the most creepy thing is all the instruments that Santa uses to spy on the children, including like this movie was shot in like the 50s, so you can imagine.
Doesn't he have like a giant tube?
With an ear on the end, a giant tube with lips on the end that looks kind of questionable when it's doing. And but if you get a chance to go back on the Drive-In Movie Maniacs website and on their Facebook page, I should say, you go back for their past episodes, check out the Santa Claus Christmas episode, because that was great, because they do these really cool interstitial stuff when they go to commercial break and that stuff during this movie, and it's really funny, really cool. And of course, Blade was a recurring cast member with that because of the Midnight Rose, which was his independent wrestling gimmick. Him and Mr. Fitness too, and
he was not very fit.
they both were big on the Kansas City independent wrestling scene and that stuff for a long time. So that's basically in a nutshell. We haven't even touched on Blade's impact on the Trauma universe as well, where he was involved in all this great B movie stuff that Trauma's done, and was involved with Trauma invading the Cannes Film Festival a few years ago as well. I remember seeing pictures of that. That was pretty wild. And man, just a great guy. And
he's a big friend of Lloyd Kaufman. They did a lot of collaborations together to try and help his company there with Trauma, and definitely bring it to more mainstream audience, which I think they were pretty successful in doing.
Lifetime Detroit Lions fan as well. Take that as it's good or bad. Most of the time bad than anything else.
No, he was very proud. There's that wrestle.
I'm talking about the team itself. The Detroit Lions haven't really.
I mean, he was very proud of their 0-16 season.
That's right. Yeah,
because he got a T-shirt. He actually got a T-shirt that says "Preseason Champions" because they went 4-0 in the preseason.
They did, and went on to not win in a single game that year as well. So,
but they were the preseason champs.
I'd like to just take this time just to extend my heartfelt thanks to Blade and to RD Reynolds, to Troy and Randy, for basically being influences on how I create my content and how I do stuff on this channel. Even before then, back with my when we first launched Freakin' Nitro Radio on my old channel. That's who I wanted to try to replicate a little bit, was steal a little bit from RD and Blade and their conversational style and the reoccurring gimmicks and just the zaniness and the wildness of just, trying to record a podcast. And yeah, it's going to be different without Blade for sure. You could always count on him to keep you updated on the weird side and the wild side of things and everything. So definitely want to send my condolences and my heartfelt thanks to the family of Troy Ferguson, FKA Blade Braxton, and his legacy will live on, definitely with the website and with these old episodes and the archives and so on and so forth. So that's it. And I don't have a haiku, unfortunately. I didn't write a haiku for this, but that was his thing. Always end Wrestlecrap Radio with the haiku, and definitely taught me what a haiku is. That's for sure. That's something I could never figure out.
Kellen didn't do well in English class.
No, I had to go back for English, man. Social studies I could handle, but English, forget about it. So, anyways, but for myself, Kellen Nitro, for Mr. Moorhouse, thank you very much for tuning in and checking us out, and just kind of, reminiscing about the great run of Wrestlecrap Radio and Blade Braxton in general. And we're sending our condolences and all our love to Blade's family and friends. And we'll see you next time here on Nitro Maniac TV's Wrestling Unlimited. And for those who want to catch the question that I asked on that episode way back in the day, back in 2006, here it is in its entirety to wrap up the video. Take care, folks. See ya.
That's perfect. Anyway, Nitroholic, he listens to the show, and he says, a question for you. Were the Fabulous Rougeaus really that fabulous? Were you fans of Jacques and Raymond?
I thought that I thought that was a lie, bull-faced lie. They should have been known as the moderately fabulous Rougeau brothers. I never gave them respect for that.
How about the somewhat adequate Rougeau brothers?
Better than mediocre Rougeau brothers.
Sure. The slightly interesting Rougeau brothers.
I always thought they were interesting.
Actually, that's a joke. I mean, I actually did enjoy the Rougeaus. I loved it whenever they would bring out... Remember whenever they first turned heel, and they had the little American flags, and each week the flag kept getting smaller?
Oh, that was great. I love that. That's one of my favorite gimmicks of all time. We were talking about favorite gimmicks of the past. That was great.
That was...
They should have been able to run with that for 10 years.
And of course I liked it when Jacques was the Mountie.
I liked it when Raymond was just a part of the Fabulous Rougeau brothers, because he looked like he had that like porno stash and basically just looked like a child molester.
The child molesting Rougeau brothers. Stop. See, because we say these things, and next week they'll have them. They'll have some child molesting tag team, because they, don't tell me they wouldn't do that. They would totally do that. Totally do that.
I'm surprised there hasn't already been one of those in XPW back then.
Speaking of child molesters, I'm just teasing.
You are responsible for us losing probably 2 listeners every week. We only had about 12 to begin with.
We're down to 10.